For that. For now, that is Sarah Kharat live in Tel Aviv, and we can now speak to Marwan Bishara. He is Al Jazeera senior political analyst. Marwan, what do you make of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the other men that we were hearing from, the Defence Minister, Minister Benny Gantz, all saying that the ceasefire could continue, they would like the ceasefire to continue, but so must the war?
Yeah, absolutely, because, you know, as we've been saying earlier, you put a pause to a video game, you don't put a pause to a genocide. And clearly they are genocidal in their war. So they have kept on saying again and again and again, especially Minister of Defense Gallant, that don't ever get the impression that we're going to stop, we're just going to continue with the war. As soon as this is over, we will continue, we know our objectives and so on and so forth. So this was a continuous justification of why this should not be misunderstood as weakness, that in fact they are strong and they are doing great in the war, they are achieving their objective, and they will continue to do so after the pause is ended. Now, you know, to my mind, because I'm not sure how many times we broadcasted any such press conferences, but I've been watching this over many weeks now on Israeli television. And I can't tell you how much this is a repetition of more of the same.
It was incredibly repetitive, wasn't it? And I was wondering, why did they bring up all three men to say the same thing over and over again? Not only did they repeat what they themselves said, but then another one would come on and repeat what the man before him had said.
And imagine that this has been happening day after day or every other day the past month and a half. Except the only difference today is that Gantz decided to show up in blue, not in black. Otherwise, this has been the same picture of all three men pretending to be all in agreement, pretending to have harmony amongst each other, although they hate each other guts, and they are in disagreements on a number of things. And the two generals cannot wait to get rid of Netanyahu, who, of course, as we all know, is unpopular and so on and so forth. But back to what they were saying, and I thought the spin was considerable this time. I mean, there was so much spin, I could go and dissect every sentence said the past 45 minutes to tell you where the spin is. And a lot of it was not just, you know, sort of playing with the truth. A lot of it was just not factual. And I think the most important part was not factual. They've been trying to make the argument throughout this press conference that they had to go through a month and a half of war, risking the lives of their own captives, right? But it was all justified because they couldn't have reached this deal before.
Yeah.
Not true. This is not true. We know, all of us, because we've heard it repeated again and again by Hamas leaders, that they were ready from day one,
yeah,
to release the old women and the children and so on and so forth that they have held, because I think they also regretted probably holding them anyway. And because it's tough to hold children and old people captives in Gaza in a condition of war for a month and a half. So from the beginning, Hamas leaders were insisting that they are happy to release the captives in return for reciprocity, meaning Israel release the same. So their entire discourse that they had to do it, they had to do the war and risk the lives of the captives so they can reach this deal, this is just not true.
They said that the deal they have now is a much better deal than was on the table 10 days ago.
Apparently, this is also not true because, I don't want to say from my own sources, let's say from my own reading, I know this is not to be true. They've been stubborn now for 10 days, insisting on a number of things, such as the flight over Gaza, such as the number of days, but they made concessions on all of them, because they needed to show some results and because they were American pressures. Again, there was American pressure on the Israelis to come up with a deal. But Netanyahu, you know, prefers to play the bombastic smug, saying, I called my friend Joe.
Exactly.
And I told my friend Joe to get involved and to talk to them.
Yeah.
As if the leader of the free world works for a prime minister. Netanyahu.
And he also said, I called my friend Joe and I said, look, Joe, this war will continue.
Well, this is again, right? Because Netanyahu has been insistent from the very beginning, and he boxed in the leader of the free world behind him in a genocidal war that we see its result. Now, this genocidal war, and pay attention to the words, again, you know, I mean, spin. So, ethical, moral, values, noble objectives.
Yeah.
We are talking about the genocidal war that led to the death of more than 12,000 civilians, more than 5,000 children, to the destruction of more than half of the residential buildings in Gaza,
Yeah.
a war on hospitals, a war on schools, a war on children. Again, ethical, moral, values, noble objective. And they were talking about a baby. I'm not sure which baby, but they were a baby apparently held by Hamas. Imagine the audacity. After all the images of all the babies that we've seen over the past weeks, especially the last few days in Ashifa, in the Indonesian hospitals, in Al-Quds Hospital and other hospitals, Al-Ahli Hospital, the babies of the Palestinians.
Yeah.
That's ethical, moral, noble objective.
Marwan, thank you as always. That is our senior political analyst, Marwan Bishara.